How did I save 1 million items from landfill? Without going to the point too much, a lot of hard work. But today's video, I wanted to talk about how did I actually save 1 million individual items from landfill. Since I started Gully Garms in 2012, I've been saving items continuously, but in completely different respects. So for the longest time, I was buying stock from suppliers and buying stock from set individuals at set wholesale processes. Everybody knows that by buying secondhand and by buying vintage, you are saving that item from landfill, and sometimes not actually from landfill, and other ways just by a byproduct of buying and selling that. So how have I sold over 1 million individual items on the internet? 1 million individual items of vintage and secondhand clothing that have had to have each individual process to them products. Little fun fact for you, if you sold 1,000 products a month, it would take you 83 years to sell 1 million products. The reason why that fact is just interesting is because when I worked that out, I was like, holy mackerels, that's a lot of items, even for like per month. So just to put it in perspective, I sold 1 million in less than 10 years. So 100,000 products per year on average, based on different levels of momentum of where it was at. But how did I actually go about to being in a position to selling such an incredible amount and big volume? Momentum and scaling that momentum. Now, you haven't heard me say my two favorite words for a while, which is momentum and leverage, but now I want to look at the way I scaled the momentum. The only way you sell volume in this basis is either by doing it in a scaled approach. Every situation you're doing, the uploading, the photography, you're just putting it on steroids basically. You're doubling it, doubling it, doubling it, doubling it, tripling it, whatever. You're basically maximizing every single bit you're doing. And by means of exercising that, you're investing a lot more in staff, you're investing a lot more in stock, you're investing a lot more in models and shoots, and the whole process is just scaled up massively. So that is really where it sits, the momentum built by scaling. Now, I never really thought about like the items that were being saved and the number, and it was only when we actually hit roughly around about 1 million that I thought, wow, let's just take this into account. The average person lives, say, 75, 80 years, 365 days. Let's do quick maths, no idea, but guarantee it's not 1 million items of clothing that an individual person wears in their whole lifetime. You know, I've had shoots before with a model who's worn more items in that one shoot than somebody will in a whole year. The only reason why I like these statistics is because it really puts into scale how much work really went into it in order to get to that point. The same way where I relate back, if you're selling 1,000 individual products a month, you're selling 250 a week. If you wanted to sell 1 million, it would take you 83 years. So that just shows that the level of momentum through the scaling was actually exceeding past so many different levels. And we was around about 100,000 a year on average based on when the years were really high and the years at the beginning when it wasn't as many. But how did I actually get to a point where I could sell that many items? I worked on ASOS Marketplace, I had my own website, I never really exercised loads of different platforms at the same time. I wasn't uploading one product and it went on 10 different platforms. We was uploading individual products to one set platform. To our detriment at the time with where we were, maybe we could have done that and made even more sales, but with what we were doing, we focused on this. The platform we did was the website. What built us to there was ASOS Marketplace. Throughout this lily pad jumping from platform to platform, I went from one platform to one other. Now I know with 2024, where we're at currently, vintage and secondhand, if you're not selling on 10 to 15 different platforms, you're probably not doing it right. But from the groundwork of the foundation of where I came from and the process and principle that I had, focusing on one platform allowed me to invest in that whole ecosystem, grow it, scale it, and maximize that momentum that I was getting through the scaling of more traffic, of more conversions, of more workload being done, created, and produced. And as a result, more sales. When people think about getting into vintage and secondhand, they might not think about a 10-year route from where they are right now. And you might not need to, if this is something that you want to just do on the side. Now, I never really knew what I wanted to do with vintage and with Gully, and it was something where, if I'm being totally honest, an idea went and it worked well, and I ran with it. You know, if you have a successful social media post you do, you're gonna do that again, because why wouldn't you try and recreate the thing that worked well? If I was making sales on a platform using models, why wouldn't I keep doing the same thing and seeing where that went? Mine just came from the curiosity of what could be more and running with that. And I never really looked at factoring in the time, and if I'm being totally honest with you, I've been like a horse at the Grand National, tunnel vision for probably the last 12 years of my life anyway, in a sense of just being very focused and driven on what I was doing and not really looking at time as a relative part of the metric. When we look at the selling process that I did and how I actually got to that point, it focused on scaling. The ways that I think scaling in today's day would actually work. If you're watching this video in 2024 and you're interested on how you can get as many sales, what I would say to focus on is the average game by a volume basis. There's no secrets to the tedious tasks of uploading uploading products. If you want to do it, you've got to do it. If you want to externalize it and outsource it, you've got to pay for that to be outsourced and externalized. All the jobs still need to get done, and it's on an individual one-of-one item basis. All these clothes behind you, if I was to make a sale with them on the internet, I would have to individually do all the processes of washing, steaming, preparing, photographing, uploading, indexing, and organizing and putting in a position where it could be found for when it's sold. Average gain by a volume basis essentially means buy cheap stock, maximize the volume through that, and that's how you will be able to sell a lot of items. Now, for the most time, I wasn't working under that metric, and I actually, funnily enough, have been on that in probably the last 12 to 18 months, more so than I ever have before. So if I had that mindset before, who knows what would have been different? I might not be here on YouTube talking to you lovely people about how to start your reselling journey. The universe has its ways of working out. All I wanted this video to be is a point of reference for you to think, how does somebody sell 1 million items? And the truth answer is, with a lot of bloody hard work. There's no tips or tricks outside of that bit. If you are willing to hustle, if you're willing to work, if you're willing to put in more hours than somebody else, are you going to be there on Christmas Eve uploading your products on the internet, or are you going to be out with your friends having a drink? You choose different situations in life to get different outcomes. If you're smart at business, and like I say, you outsource certain things, how I got 1 million items sold and saved from landfill was a completely insane story that was just built up from an exponential growth through the momentum that I was scaling. I had social media on my side, I had the website on my side, I had a team of people that were here ready to make it happen, and we ran with that idea. And that momentum allowed me to then, into the coming years, sell a lot more items on a per year basis. Again, one of our most popular days was a Black Friday when we still sold about 3,500 to 4,000 individual products. These numbers are just here as a reference point, hopefully some inspiration and motivation. I know I don't normally like to use the word motivation or inspiration, but hopefully that can instill something for you that basically things are possible, nothing's impossible. And remember, secondhand fashion is set to surpass fast fashion by 2030, which realistically means if you are getting into this industry now, you are 6 years ahead of its potential peak when it's going to take over Shein, all these other rubbish places like that. I'm Sustainable Spend, here to give you some knowledge of what I know and what is in my head out of that, and in a verbal example on this video. If you have any thoughts about this, if you want me to expand on anything like how you can create a system for selling X amount of items a month, how you can set up things, let me know down below. And if you want to directly contact me, I do offer consultancy where you can speak to me directly and we can book in half an hour points where we can go into the strategies behind what you might need to do to get there. Guys, as always, stay safe, sustainable, keep doing you, trust in your process, and remember, it's not really about the numbers. The numbers I have now are because I realized that's where we're at, but I was never focused on getting to 1 million sales, just so we know for the reference. We're doing good things, aren't we? Right, lots of love. I'll see you in a bit, dudes.